Welcome to our webinar, Campus Safety at Texas Tech. We are excited to have all of you joining us today. My name is Morgan Chavez-Brannon with Parent and Family Relations, and joining me today are Public Information Officer Caitlin Jeffries from the Texas Tech Police Department, Tyler Patrick from Title IX, and Claire Navarez from Clery Compliance. This webinar is part of our Red Raider Family Webinar Series, where we share information on topics of interest to parents, families, and supporters of our students. We hope this webinar will help you better understand some of the campus safety resources that are available to your students. We plan to keep this webinar to about 30 minutes or so. If there is time at the end, we will open up for questions using the Zoom Q&A feature. In the meantime, you can use that Zoom Q&A feature to submit your questions throughout the entire presentation. We will have some folks working behind the scenes to answer those questions for you. We are recording this session and will be posting it to our website so that you'll be able to review it again later or share it with others. We will also email the recording link to the email that you used to register for the webinar. So let's begin. I'm going to turn it over to Officer Jeffries.
Thank you, Morgan. So I work with the Texas Tech Police Department. As she said, I am the Public Information Officer, so I oversee our public relations, media, all sorts of things. Our mission at the Texas Tech Police Department is to provide a safe and secure environment to live, learn, and educate. You will often hear us referred to as TTPD. We operate 24/7, 365 days of the year, so we're always fully staffed. Our primary jurisdiction is defined as all property owned, leased, rented, or otherwise under the control of the Board of Regents. So in other words, Tech owns property in all but 2 counties, I believe, in the state of Texas. So we have jurisdiction pretty much anywhere in the state of Texas. We enforce all federal, local, and state laws. We are a concealed carry campus with exclusionary zones in some areas. And our current interim chief of police is Amy Ivy. I just want to cover some of the divisions and resources that we do have. We have a patrol division, administration, guards, investigations, dispatch, public relations, crime prevention, honor guard, and bicycle patrol. The investigations team works 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, but they investigate all of the cases that we intake. So we do everything in-house. We're a fully staffed police department. We also offer and operate many resources on campus, including blue phones around campus to assist with an emergency. So if for whatever reason a student or faculty, staff member, whoever it might be, does not have a phone on them and they are in an emergency situation, they can walk up and press that button on the blue phone, and it immediately connects you with our dispatch center. And we pride ourselves on our response time being around 2 to 3 minutes anywhere on campus. So we will immediately get there and help whoever is in need. We do offer crime prevention presentations and programs, including burglary and theft presentations, alcohol and drug awareness, active threat presentations, and general safety topics, along with many other things. We do security surveys of the TTU system property, so they will have us come out and look at property to make sure that the security aspects are being covered and that everywhere on campus is safe. The fire marshals actually assist in that as well to make sure that we are up to code. We do assist in the operation of TechAlert, which is our emergency notifications database. So with TechAlert, we will send out emergency notifications, whether it's weather related, active threat, if classes are canceled, many different things there. So it's very important to have. And our dispatch typically is the first ones to send that when we get the call. We do have Instagram, Facebook, and X. So make sure you're following us there because I try to post safety tips on there and just important campus information as it pertains to safety. I wanted to include some crime prevention tips. So of course, the number one thing that we see on campus is theft reports. So you want to make sure you're locking your bicycle and scooters up. You use a U-lock and lock it to a bike rack. I see a lot of students using the chain lock, and those are just a little bit easier to break. So the U-lock is definitely the way you want to go. You want to make sure you're registering your bicycle and scooters with transportation and parking. It's free of charge, but this allows us, if a student does have their scooter or bicycle stolen, it's a lot easier to recover the item because let's say it's not reported yet and we come across the person that stole it while we're doing our patrols, we can immediately run that serial number through transportation and parking and see that it does not belong to that person. You want to place the registration sticker that you get from transportation and parking on your property, and that allows us to know that it is registered. Write down the makes, models, descriptions, serial numbers, and model numbers of any of your valued properties. So bicycles and scooters do have serial numbers. They're located on the frame somewhere. And you want to do this with cell phones, iPads, laptops, anything that you would consider highly valued. Um, it's also helpful to keep photographs and receipts of valued items. This is fantastic to show an officer because then we can easily identify whatever the item is if there's something unique about it. Always verify online accounts and caller authenticity. This has to do with scam calls and some scam posts. We do see reports on campus for students that might have sent illicit photos to somebody that was a scam account. So we just want to make sure that our students are being safe and knowing who they are talking to. Take all valuables out of your vehicles or hide them if you cannot, and make sure you're locking your vehicle. Do not leave doors to your dorm room or residence hall cracked. And I say this just because you never know when another student might try to come up and walk into your room if you leave it open. So just protecting your property, protecting yourself. And you also don't want to share room keys with anyone. Even if your roommate lost their key, don't share it with them. You want to keep your access items that the campus gave to you to yourself. And then do not let someone into a limited access building who trail behind you. This mainly has to do with dorm rooms on the outside at a certain time they lock, so people can't just get into it. We live in West Texas. Everybody wants to be friendly, so we often see people holding the door open for somebody else, but you never know who you're letting in. And remember, if you see something suspicious, make sure you say something and report it to police. We can't do anything about suspicious activity if we aren't aware that it's going on, so please report it to us. And then I also wanted to share a few safety tips. The number one thing is always be aware of your surroundings. If you're aware of your surroundings, you can often prevent a lot of crimes from happening. Make sure you're signing up for the emergency notifications in your area. The city of Lubbock has several, along with the tech alert we have on campus. Make sure you're creating an emergency contact in your phone. That's really useful if your student is in a car accident or anything like that. Nowadays, the phones typically have technology that if it feels what is considered a wreck, it will send alerts to your emergency contact, and it will actually send alerts to emergency responders in the area as well. So that's really important. Become familiar with campus locations and off-campus locations. Use the buddy system after dark if possible. Of course, always have a plan. If you have a plan in place prior, you can keep yourself from getting into bad situations. Follow our social media pages that I shared with you so that you can stay up to date on important campus safety information. Ensure you are linked to Tech Alert, which with parents, you have to ask your student to add your phone number into their account, and then you will be able to get those notifications as well. And I included a QR code right there for you so you can easily scan and read about it on the website. There is a new app now that you can download the app, and it makes those notifications a little bit easier and allows you to check that you have seen the notification. And of course, if you see something suspicious, always say something. And this is just our contact information. The non-emergency number is there if your student needs to report a theft or something that's not emergent in the moment. Of course, as always, dial 911 in case of emergencies. We do have a certain radius on campus that it will go directly to us. If you're outside of that radius for campus, it will go to Lubbock Police Department or the Lubbock Sheriff's Office. And if for whatever reason you do not connect to the correct line, they will immediately switch you over to whatever department you need. Like I said, we do operate 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. Um, if you don't have a cell phone and you need emergency contacts, like I said, the blue phones are fantastic. That is our email, and then my contact information is down there at the bottom. That is my direct office line. If you do have questions after this that you don't want to put in this chat, please feel free to email me or give me a call. I'll be more than happy to speak with you. And then, of course, the QR code is there if you want to look at our website.
Hi, everybody. I am Tyler Patrick. I'm the Deputy Compliance Officer here at Texas Tech, and I'm here with the Title IX office to give you just some information about our office and some of the resources that we can provide your students with. Just a little history on Title IX. It's a 1972 federal law establishing that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation or denied the benefits of any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Originally, it was related to college athletics specifically, scholarship limits and things, making sure that men and women both had the same number of scholarships for athletic events and sports, but it's since been expanded to include all kinds of sexual equity, including sexual assault, sexual misconduct that happens on campus. Some of the things our office can help do is provide supportive measures, investigate reports of misconduct, and facilitate resolutions related to those reports of misconduct. Supportive measures can be anything from helping with class assignments, helping with parking, connecting students to on-campus and off-campus counseling, medical assistance, basically just anything you come in and ask, I need help with something related to this incident that's been reported. We can work with our case managers and we can help you get your student the help that they need. The reports of misconduct that we investigate, we'll cover that on the next slide here, I think, but just includes all kinds of sexual misconduct that are against our policy here at Texas Tech. We have trained investigators that can investigate those reports. I will make clear that our process is an administrative process, not a criminal process. Those can work concurrently. So if you have an incident that may also be some kind of criminal violation, you can report it to us and to obviously Texas Tech Police Department. We work very closely with them, but those are separate processes. So you can choose one, both, neither. It's really up to your student's decision. And then that last point was the facilitating resolutions. That's kind of comes at the conclusion of the investigation process. We have hearing panels that will review the information provided and that our investigators looked into that will determine whether any policy violations did or did not occur. Additionally, students have a lot of freedom to do what we call the informal resolution process, which is basically a mutual agreement between the involved parties. We call them complainants and respondents. Complainant, the person making the report, and the respondent, the person who may have been alleged to have violated some kind of policy. We give them the freedom to make those resolutions, and they can kind of tailor those specifically to what they're looking to get out of the process. And if both students agree, then we can facilitate that. Listed here are just some of the different policy violations related to Title IX misconduct, sexual harassment, sexual assault, dating violence, domestic violence, stalking, public indecency, and sexual exploitation. These are all things that our office can support your student with and investigate if that's what your student wants. Additionally, kind of a component of Title IX is the protections for pregnant, nursing, and parenting students. Universities must excuse absences due to pregnancy or childbirth for as long as a doctor says it is necessary. We must allow students to return to the same academic or extracurricular status as before the medical leave began, which includes the opportunity to make up any missed work or assignments. We must provide pregnant students with the same special services it provides to students with other temporary medical conditions. We'll make very clear that you are not mandated to report your own pregnancy. However, if you would like to report it, we have a designated person whose sole job is assisting pregnant students and helping them get the support and the resources that they may need. Obviously, being pregnant and being a student is very difficult to do at the same time, and we're here to help however we can with that. Kind of the timeline of what happens once a report has been filed with our office. We have a team of case managers who the student would meet with to review the report, talk about the options with the student. I'll be clear that just because a report is made to our office does not mean that anyone has to do anything. There doesn't mean there has to be an investigation in any way. In fact, oftentimes students will say that something happened to them and they're just looking for help, those supportive resources that I talked about before. If that's all that they want, then that's all they have to do. Oftentimes they will request that there's more, like an investigation, which is where the investigators will come in and that hearing process that I talked about before. It's totally the student's decision if they want to file a formal complaint or not. And our case managers walk them through what that'll look like. And then, of course, the resolution of those complaints can either be that informal resolution we talked about. You could think of that as kind of a mediation, or they can pursue that more formal process. You can report incidents a variety of ways, both confidentially and not confidentially. To the university, our deputy Title IX coordinator is Meredith Holden. I am pinch hitting today, so Meredith is more on the Title IX side of things, but you can report directly to her. You can report to the Office for Student Civil Rights and Sexual Misconduct staff. Office of Equal Opportunity, if there's complaints related to faculty misconduct, they will often assist us in investigating those incidents. And we have an online sexual misconduct reporting form that may be anonymous. Additionally, confidential resources include the Student Counseling Center, the Family Therapy Clinic, the Psychology Clinic, the T2HSC Employee Assistance Program, which is for employees, not for students, and then Student Health Services. And then obviously you can always report to law enforcement, and we encourage you to do that if it's a potential crime. This is our QR code with all of our supportive resources on it. It includes resources related to Title IX and additional other things that we investigate as well. We do investigate other types of civil rights complaints. So I encourage you to just download that card, and it has all of the information you'll need there.
Hi, my name is Claire Navarez. I'm the Clery Compliance Officer here at Tech. Clery Act kind of ties together the police department and Title IX. A little history about it is, if you want to go to the next, thanks. In 1986, Jean Clery was brutally beaten, raped, and murdered in her residence hall. And essentially what happened was her parents found out that there was a pattern of behavior of somebody breaking into doors that were not locked completely or were propped open, kind of like what was said earlier. And they felt that if the university had provided the information to the community, she would not have left her door open, and she could have made a decision that would have protected herself and her safety. So it has all kind of come from that act and the family of Jean Clery. So the purpose of the Clery Act is to provide the campus community with timely, accurate, and complete information about crime and the safety of campus so that people can make informed decisions. It's all about safety and making sure that people can make some decision that will protect their safety and themselves. Okay, the interesting thing about Clery is it doesn't matter who it happens to. What matters is it's our geography. So if it's on campus, within the residence hall, around campus on sidewalks, anywhere that like a student organization might rent out for their meetings, if we go on a trip somewhere, it really depends and focuses on Texas Tech people in the community. And so if there was something that happened when a football game was going on, but it wasn't a tech student, you would still know about it if there was an ongoing safety issue because it's on campus, not dependent on who it is. I'm not going to read all of these, but these are all the Clery reportable crimes that we are required to follow the Clery Act for. So a lot of them are ones that Title IX has already discussed. The biggest ones that you would hear something about would be stalking, or maybe if there's a pattern of robbery or burglary, that type of thing. We are also required to keep a crime log, both Texas Tech Police Department and myself update it. We have with 2 business days to update it after something has happened, so it'll always be up to date, and you'll be able to see the last 60 days of crimes. And it's all in one place, so you can see both Clery crime reports as well as police department ones. We also publish an annual security report. It can be found on the Clery Compliance website for crime statistics from the last 3 years, as well as current policies, resources, all of the information that you need to be safe on campus. Because we have residence halls, we also publish a fire safety report that discusses all of our fire safety prevention in the halls. It discusses any fires that may have happened in the last 3 years. And again, just some resources for you if you're living on campus. Similar to what police department said, if there's a pattern of serious or continuing threat to students and employees, we may send out a timely warning notification. It will not go through the app that was discussed earlier that the emergency notifications will go through. This will just be an email to your student's Texas Tech email address, and it will just talk about the bare minimum of the crime. But the big thing is it will provide safety tips so that your student can make some decisions to keep themselves safe. So if we see a pattern of somebody walking on 18th Street after 9 p.m. being robbed, we might send something out saying, hey, if you have to be on 19th, I forget what street I just said. If you have to be on that street after this time, we're seeing a pattern of this behavior. So here are some safety tips you can use to not be a victim. And it might include our Radar Ride system. It would include buddy system. So it's just a lot of safety tips to keep yourself aware and to provide alternate actions in order to be safe. In 24, the Stop Campus Hazing Act was also added to the Jean Clery Campus Safety Act. So we have to now track and report hazing incidents to the public. So that is also available on our compliance website. So hazing can be with anybody. Specifically with the Stop Campus Hazing Act, it's any group of 2 or more Texas Tech students. So it does not have to be a certain organization. It does not have to be a recognized organization within the university. It can happen to anyone. And the big thing to know is you cannot consent to being hazed. So it doesn't matter if it's a voluntary action. It does not matter if you said it was fine. You cannot consent to hazing. So it's actually very important to be aware of this and to speak up if you know of anything that has happened, or if your student has a roommate who's gone through something that seems like it could be hazing. It's really important to make sure that we share that information with the Fraternity Sorority Life Office, the Student Organization Office. Anybody on campus can help get the resources needed if somebody's going through this. Here is a QR code if they want to report anonymously. There's also some other forms that are available that aren't anonymous, but there are a lot of different ways that you can go about reporting hazing at Texas Tech. Here are some more resources. We have a lot of them, so we definitely want to make sure that students know that they are not alone if they know someone going through this or if they themselves are. Drug-Free Schools and Communities Act and the Drug and Alcohol Abuse Prevention Program are also part of the Clery Act. which requires us to annually notify the community of our policies related to the unlawful possession, use, or distribution of illicit drugs and alcohol. Here's a QR code to our most current one. We send it out at the beginning of every semester. So there's lots of opportunities to see what our policies are, what our stance is on different drugs and alcohol, resources for where you can go if you have help. A big one is the Risk Intervention and Safety Education Office. They have all kinds of resources pertaining to substance use and abuse and overall wellness. They'll do a lot of presentations and classes, but they're also available for walk-ins if anybody ever has any questions or needs some help or resources. And I am part of the Office of Institutional Compliance, which includes Title IX, Title VI, and the pregnancy and parenting. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us anytime.
Well, thank you to all of our panelists. There's been a lot of really great information shared today. As a reminder to everybody who is attending, you are welcome to use that Q&A feature to submit questions to our panelists. They will be answering those behind the scenes. I do see one that I think is a great question to ask Officer Jeffries. How many blue light phones are on campus, and how do people know where they're located?
That's a great question. We actually do have it on our website. Sorry, let me get it pulled up so I can tell you what tab it is under. But I believe there are over 100, I think around 120 blue phones around campus. They're located all over, of course, Texas Tech University, as well as Texas Tech Health Science Center. There's a couple that are inside buildings. The Student Union building does have one inside. There's one right outside of the Student Union building. And then, like I said, on our website, we do have a tab in there that you can go and find a map. Apologies. Let me see if I can find which tab it's under. So you're going to click under Programs and Services, and you will see Blue Phones listed on there. And when you click on that, it'll have a list with all of those locations, and you should also be able to find a map in that as well.
Okay, this is one that's definitely top of mind. And I think it's another great question is, are students receiving a presentation like this while they're at orientation?
So Sergeant Jaxtis typically does presentations. I will have to get with him. I'm honestly not sure if we do one exactly like this. He kind of tailors his presentations differently. I know he definitely does an active threat presentation at some point for students, but I can definitely look into that and make sure that they are getting this information, safety information. I do meet with students quite often at tablings at Red Raider orientation that I will provide those answers.
Also, institutional compliance hosts events year round. So it's not necessarily a sit and listen, it's a little more engaging and fun. So if they just keep an eye on our social media, they'll be able to find when we are out and about for that.
Thank you, Claire. It looks like we still have several other questions in here about, things like the borders of campus are open to the public streets. So is there continuous and frequent patrolling going on there, especially at night? I know that's something that a lot of people are concerned about. So who would like to answer that?
I think that's definitely a me question. We absolutely we have, like I said, officers out 24/7, and we have 3 different shifts. We have mornings, evenings, and nights, and there's actually a 2-hour overlap between every single shift. So at some points we have extra staffing, and we did that on purpose at times that we know might be a little bit busier. With those streets, like I said, we do have jurisdiction anywhere pretty much across the state of Texas. So you will see us patrolling those main streets right there on the outer edges of campus. And we try to stop any crime that we can before it gets onto campus.
There is a question about concealed carry that, students are not allowed to carry just everywhere on campus. Can you speak further to that?
Yes, so there will be the signs around campus that tell students exactly where they can and not carry. Um, for the most part, almost everywhere on campus you can carry. Of course, it has to be concealed carry. So if your student does see anybody walking around that does not have a badge on their person, so an officer, then they should not be open carrying. And that's definitely something suspicious that we want reported to us so that we can go and address that. But like I said, those buildings that cover where you cannot carry necessarily and even concealed carry, they will have the signs on those buildings telling students where they cannot do that. And if a student is a concealed carry license holder, they should know exactly what those signs are. They should be taught that.
Thanks. Um, Looking at our time, we are at the end of our time for today. You can continue to put those questions in and we'll try to do our best to answer that, but just to be mindful of everyone's time, we're going to go ahead and wrap up for today. I do want to ask that before you log out of this, please take our short survey. We take your responses seriously. We share this information with our panelists. We want to know, what other information you might be needing from us or from any of our panelists as well. Looking forward, our next summer orientation series webinars are going to be in July. So we've got a little bit of a break ahead of us. Our next one is going to be academic success at Texas Tech. We'll have a few of our academic partners talk about some of those resources. And then we also have preparing your Red Raider for on-campus living in the middle of July. And we just confirmed today, for those of you who maybe don't have students living on campus this fall, and they're going to be in off-campus student housing, we are actually going to be getting that one added to our July series. So be on the lookout for that. That will be up later today in the Red Raider Family Network for you to register for, as well as on our Red Raider Family webinar series website. If you have any questions for Parent and Family Relations, the Police Department, Title IX, or Clery compliance, all of those emails are on the screen for you. And we look forward to sharing more information with you at our next webinar. I hope you all have a great day.